how did the Filipinx culture and experience interact with your healing process? Which I personally believe the healing process isn't like one and done, right? Like it's an ongoing, lifelong, potentially lifelong journey.
There's definitely been a lot of stops through my healing. There's been a lot of hurdles, things being triggered or things coming up for me, or just like not being able to deal with something like in the way that I would want to. Like for me to be able to communicate things with like my therapist or with close loved ones, I would retreat to what I know or what I knew. But luckily I've had the privilege of, you know, going through school and organizing and doing a lot of social justice work with destigmatizing the mental health.
Having access to mental health services has really helped me a lot, just with access to information. Even if my family isn't totally on the same page about that, we still very much so are close, despite maybe, you know, the lack of talking about trauma or, you know, being vulnerable, putting yourself out there. Despite that, you know, my family will just always come together over food and just be together for like hours. And that type of support has really, it's really helped me a lot. And I think that really is a privilege. And the fact that my family might not fully support it, they're still there. And that kind of Filipino family coming togetherness over food has just been, has helped me a lot with my healing process.
Well, it's interesting that you bring that up too, because I think that that's almost their way of providing a mental health space almost, right?
Like a safe space.
Yeah, like even if we're not talking about it, we're not going to talk about it because it's under the rug, but like I've made you this thing, you know, it's like really their way of showing care and love. Yeah,
it's so true. Like my grandma will like give me like the silent treatment for like 2 months, but like she'll make me dinner every single night, right? And like, okay, like
my dad was in the Philippines now. He tends to like, I guess, sweep things on the rug. It didn't happen. Let's not talk about it. It disappeared. But I'm not like that. I need to be honest. He's my father. I always want him to know who I truly am, and I want to know who he truly is. I can't fake it. And he's gonna have to accept me that way. And so I really did try to reach out to him, and you know, we came to some kind of understanding it, and it feels so much better. Versus just like kind of like tiptoeing, you know, around and not getting him mad or
right.
So, yeah.
Troublemakers. All of us right here.
I think in terms of Filipinx-American identity, just kind of going back, I feel like it's internalized shame. Like it's me with the internalized shame. But that happens because part of coming out to the Boston area is me trying to find Filipinx folks, like finding the community where I could have that space, you know, because in the spaces I've been here, I'm very much the only Filipino person there. Like I've been finding it with Boston Pair and here and other spaces, and still, you know, that doesn't mitigate the internalized that's still there and that still happens. So it's that constant, even that's lifelong. You know, that's the healing process. That's lifelong, still going on.
That's coming up for me is like acknowledging that our ancestors or my ancestors has gone through trauma, and then knowing that my, you know, like generation after generation has experienced some form of trauma, but about like acculturation and assimilation. Yeah.
Which I feel like I remember hearing when I was younger. The Filipinos are like really good at acculturating and assimilating. They're just like brilliant at it. You step into a new community and you're just like, I'm one with this community, you know? But I feel like there's like a cost, right? Because there's a little bit of the you that gets lost in that process, trying to assimilate hard to a new place.
There's something that you named too about how generally we're easy to adapt, assimilate, acculturate, tied to the generational piece. In our DNA it's indigenous Filipino, it's Spanish, it's US American, it's people from Polynesia, Malay, Indonesia, all of that, like literally goes to the islands of the Philippines is in us. So, there's pieces of that where I'm like, yeah, of course it is, because it's in our DNA, it's in our history. We've had to assimilate, we've had to for survival. I think I want to highlight just on the generational trauma piece, where there's studies even recently where it's just legit that the trauma is passed on in our DNAs. So the centuries of colonization from Spain to the imperialism from the US, all of that pain, everything shows up in the generations ahead. So it's showing up, like for me as an example, early 30s, even physically, diabetes, gout, that goes through other folks.
Yeah.
Where I'm like, even when people are like, you got gout, you're only 33, I'm like, yeah, like that's general, it's not my choosing, that's because of survival. And that goes to mental, that goes to everything else. And then there's just a piece too that I want to especially highlight that, because it's not just for Filipinx-Americans. We take that to the USA, where the trauma and DNA is passed on to the transatlantic slave trade of people being, what's going on with black people in America, taking that further back, the genocide of the native peoples of this land, like all of that keeps passing down and shortening lifespan physically, deteriorating mental health, eradicating any kind of spiritual connection. That just keeps passing on in DNA, where that's why kind of going back, if I could heal myself, if we could heal each other, if we could heal the community, then we could kind of break that cycle.
Yeah, it kind of like starts with me.
Yeah.
I think creating a pathway to start healing is a start.
Yeah.
To have these conversations, to start having these conversations, to encourage conversations around mental health.